Volume 2, Chapter 5th of the Antiquary. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Antiquary, by Sir Walter Scott. Chapter 5th. Who will, may the boatie row, and better may she speed, and weel may the boatie row, that earns the barney's breed. The boatie rows, the boatie rows, the boatie rows fu' weel, and lightsome be their life that bear the merlin and the creel. Old Ballad. We must now introduce our reader to the interior of the fisher's cottage mentioned in chapter 11th of this edifying history. I wish I could say that its inside was well arranged, decently furnished, or tolerably clean. On the contrary, I am compelled to admit there was confusion, there was dilapidation, there was dirt, good store. Yet with all this, there was about the inmates, Luckie Mucklebackit and her family, an appearance of ease, plenty, and comfort, that seemed to warrant their old sluttish proverb, the clartier the cosier. A huge fire, though the season was summer, occupied the hearth, and served at once for affording light, heat, and the means of preparing food. The fishing had been successful, and the family, with customary improvidence, had, since unlading the cargo, continued an unremitting operation of broiling and frying that part of the produce reserved for home consumption, and the bones and fragments lay on the wooden trenchers, mingled with morsels of broken bannocks and shattered mugs of half-drunk beer. The stout and athletic form of Maggie herself, bustling here and there among a pack of half-grown girls and younger children, of whom she chucked one now here and another now there, with an exclamation of "Get out of the gate, ye little sorrow," was strongly contrasted with the passive and half stupefied look and manner of her husband's mother, a woman advanced to the last stage of human life, who was seated in her wonted chair close by the fire, the warmth of which she coveted, yet hardly seemed to be sensible of, now muttering to herself, now smiling vacantly to the children as they pulled the strings of her toy or close cap, or twitched her blue checked apron. With her distaff in her bosom, and her spindle in her hand, she plied lazily and mechanically the old-fashioned Scottish thrift, according to the old-fashioned Scottish manner. The younger children, crawling among the feet of the elder, watched the progress of Grannie's spindle as it twisted, and now and then ventured to interrupt its progress as it danced upon the floor in those vagaries which the more regulated spinning wheel has now so universally superseded, that even the fated princess in the fairy tale might roam through all Scotland without the risk of piercing her hand with a spindle, and dying of the wound. Late as the hour was, and it was long past midnight, the whole family were still on foot, and far from proposing to go to bed. The dame was still busy broiling car-cakes on the girdle, and the elder girl, the half-naked mermaid elsewhere commemorated, was preparing a pile of Findhorn haddocks, that is, haddocks smoked with green wood, to be eaten along with these relishing provisions. While they were thus employed, a slight tap at the door, accompanied with the question, "Are ye up yet, sirs?" announced a visitor. The answer, "Ay, ay, come your ways, Ben Hinny," occasioned the lifting of the latch, and Jenny Rintherout, the female domestic of our Antiquary, made her appearance. "Ay, ay," exclaimed the mistress of the family. "Egs, sirs, can this be you, Jenny? A sight o' you's good for sae een, lass." "Oh, woman, we've been sae taken up wi' Captain Hector's wound up by, that I havena had my fit out ower the door this fortnight. But he's better now, and auld Caxon sleeps in his room in case he wanted onything. Sae as soon as our auld folk go to bed, I even snodded my head up a bit, and left the house door on the latch, in case onybody should be wanting in or out while I was away, and just came down the gate to see an there was ony cracks among ye." "Ay, ay," answered Luckie Mucklebackit, "I see ye hae gotten a' your braws on, and you're looking out for Steenie now. But he's not at hame the night, and you'll no do for Steenie, lass. A feckless thing like you's no fit to maintain a man." "Steenie will no do for me," retorted Jenny, with a toss of her head that might have become a higher born damsel. "I maun have a man that can maintain his wife. Oh, ay, hinny, there's your landward and Burrows town notions. My certie! Fisher wives ken better. They keep the man, and keep the house, and keep the siller too, lass." "A wheen poor drudges ye are," answered the nymph of the land to the nymph of the sea. "As soon as the keel of the coble touches the sand, deil a bit mair will the lazy fisher loons work. But the wives maun kilt their coats, and wade into the surf to take the fish ashore; and then the man casts off the wat and puts on the dry, and sits down with his pipe and his gill stoup ahint the ingle, like ony auld hodie; and neer a turn will he do till the coble's afloat again. And the wife she maun get the scull on her back, and away with the fish to the next Burrows town, and scold and ban will ilka wife that will scold and ban were till it's sauld. And that's the gait fisher wives live, poor slaving bodies." "Slaves! Gae way, lass cae the head of the house slaves. Little ye ken about it, lass. Show me a word my Saunders daur speak, or a turn he daur do about the house, without it be just to take his meat, and his drink, and his diversion, like ony other weans. He has mair sense than to cae anything about the biggin his ain, frae the roof tree down to a crackit trencher on the bink. He kens weel eneugh wha feeds him, and cleeds him, and keeps a tight thack and rape, when his coble is jowing away in the firth, puir fallow. Na, na, lass, them that sell the goods guide the purse, them that guide the purse rule the house. Show me ane o' your bits o' farmer bodies that will let their wife drive the stock to the market, and cae in the debts. Na, na." Aweel, Maggie, ilka land has its ain loch. But where's Steenie the night, when I'se come and gane? And where's the good man?" "I had putten the good man to his bed, for he was even sair forfain; and Steenie's away out about some barns breaking with the auld gaberlunzie, Edie Ochiltree. They'll be in syne, and he can sit down." "Troth, gudewife," taking a seat, "I hadna that muckle time to stop, but I maun tell ye about the news. Yell I heard all the muckle kist ago that Sir Arthur has fund down by St. Ruth. He'll be grander than ever now. He'll no can haud down his head to sneeze for fear of seeing his shoon." "Oh, ay, ay, the country's heard o' that; but auld Edie says that they cae it 10 times mair than ever was, and he saw them hook it up. Od, it would be lang or a poor body that needed it got sick o' wind fa'." "Na, that's sure eneugh. And yell I heard o' the Countess o' Glenallan being dead and lying in state, and how she's to be buried at St. Ruth's as this night fa's, with torchlight, and how the popist servants, and Ringan Aikwood, that's a papist too, are to be there, and it will be the grandest show ever was seen." "Troth, honey," answered the Nereid, "if they let naebody but papists come there, it'll no be muckle o' a show in this country, for the auld harlot, as honest Mr. Blattergowl calls her, has few that drink o' her cup o' enchantments in this corner o' our chosen lands. But what can ail them to bury the auld carlin a rudas wife she was in the night time? I dare say our gudemither will ken." Here she exalted her voice, and exclaimed twice or thrice, "Gudemither! Gudemither!" But, lost in the apathy of age and deafness, the aged sibyl she addressed continued plying her spindle without understanding the appeal made to her. "Speak to your grandmother, Jeanie. Od, I would rather hail the coble half o' my life, and the nor' west wind whistling again in my teeth." "Grannie," said the little mermaid, in a voice to which the old woman was better accustomed, "minnie wants to ken what for the Glenallan folk aye bury by candlelight in the ruin of St. Ruth." The old woman paused in the act of twirling the spindle, turned round to the rest of the party, lifted her withered, trembling, and clay-coloured hand, raised up her ashen-hued and wrinkled face, which the quick motion of two light blue eyes chiefly distinguished from the visage of a corpse, and, as if catching at any touch of association with the living world, answered, "What gars the Glenallan family inter their dead by torchlight?" said the lassie. "Is there a Glenallan dead e'en now?" "We might be a' dead and buried too," said Maggie, "for anything you would ken about it." And then, raising her voice to the stretch of her mother in law's comprehension, she added, "It's the auld Countess, gudemither." "And is she ca'd hame then at last?" said the old woman, in a voice that seemed to be agitated with much more feeling than belonged to her extreme old age, and the general indifference and apathy of her manner. "Is she then called to her last account after a lang race of pride and power? O God, forgie her!" "But minnie was asking ye," resumed the lesser querist, "what for the Glenallan family aye bury their dead by torchlight?" "They have aye done so," said the grandmother, "since the time the great Earl fell in the sair battle of the Harlaw, when they say the coronach was cried in ae day from the mouth of the Tay to the buck of the Cabrach, that ye wad hae heard nae other sound but that of lamentation for the great folks that had fa'en fighting against Donald of the Isles. But the great Earl's mother was living. They were a doughty and a dour race, the women o' the house of Glenallan, and she would hae nae coronach cried for her son, but had him laid in the silence of midnight in his place of rest, without either drinking the dirge or crying the lament. She said he had killed e'en now that day he died, for the widows and daughters of the Highlanders he had slain to cry the coronach for them they had lost, and for her son too. And sae she laid him in his grave with dry eyes, and without a groan or a wail. And it was thought a proud word of the family, and they aye stickit by it, and the mair in the latter times, because in the night time they had mair freedom to perform their popish ceremonies by darkness and in secrecy than in the daylight. At least that was the case in my time. They wad hae been disturbed in the daytime baith by the law and the commons of Fairport. They may be o'erlooked now, as I hae heard. The warld's changed. I whiles hardly ken whether I am standing or sitting, or dead or living." And looking round the fire, as if in a state of unconscious uncertainty of which she complained, old Elspeth relapsed into her habitual and mechanical occupation of twirling the spindle. "Eh, sirs," said Jenny Rintherout, under her breath to her gossip, "it's awsome to hear your gudemither break out in that gait. It's like the dead speaking to the living." "You're no that far wrang, lass. She minds naething o' what passes the day, but set her on auld tales, and she can speak like a prent buik. She kens mair about the Glenallan family than maist folk. The gudeman's father was their fisher mony a day. Ye maun ken the Papists make a great point o' eating of fish. It's nae bad part o' their religion that, whatever the rest is. I could aye sell the best of fish at the best of prices for the Countess's ain table, grace be with her, especially on a Friday. But see as our gudemither's hands and lips are ganging, now it's working in her head like barm. She'll speak eneugh the night. Well, she'll no speak a word in a week, unless it be to the bits o' bairns. Hegg, Mrs. Mucklebackit, she's an awsome wife," said Jenny in reply. "D'ye think she's aye-thegither right? Folk say she downa gang to the kirk, or speak to the minister, and that she was ance a Papist, but since her gudeman's been dead, naebody kens what she is. D'ye think yoursell that she's no uncanny?" "Canny, ye silly tawpie! Think ye auld wife's less canny than another? Unless it be Alison Breck, I really couldna in conscience swear for her. I have kent the boxes she set filled with partans when" "Whisht, whisht, Maggie!" whispered Jenny, "your gudemither's gaun to speak again." "Wasna there some ane o' ye said," asked the old sibyl, "or did I dream, or was it revealed to me, that Joscelind, Lady Glenallan, is dead, and buried this night?" "Yes, gudemither," screamed the daughter in law, "it's even sae." "And even sae let it be," said old Elspeth. "She's made mony a sair heart in her day ay, even her own son's. Is he living yet?" "Ay, he's living yet, but how long he'll live. However, dinna ye mind his coming and asking after ye in the spring, and leaving siller?" "It may be sae, Maggie, I dinna mind it; but a handsome gentleman he was, and his father before him. Eh, if his father had lived, they might hae been happy folk. But he was gane, and the lady carried it in, ower and out over with her son, and garr'd him trow the thing he never sold hae trowed, and do the thing he has repented a' his life, and will repent still, were his life as long as this lang and wearisome ane o' mine." "Oh, what was it, grannie? And what was it, gudemither? And what is it, Luckie Elspeth?" asked the children, the mother, and the visitor, in one breath. "Never ask what it was," answered the old sibyl, "but pray to God that ye arena left to the pride and wilfulness o' your ain hearts. They may be as powerful in a cabin as in a castle, I can bear sad witness to that. Oh, that weary and fearful night! will never gang out o' my auld head. Ay, to see her lying on the floor with her lang hair dripping with the salt water. Heaven will avenge on a' that had to do with it. Sirs, is my son out wi' the coble this windy e'en?" "Na, na, mither, nae coble can keep the sea this wind. He's sleeping in this bed out ower yonder ahint the hallan." "Is Steenie out at sea, then?" "Na, grannie, Steenie's awa out wi' auld Edie Ochiltree, the gaberlunzie. Maybe they'll be gaen to see the burial." "That canna be," said the mother of the family. "We kent naething o't till Jock Rand came in and told us the Aikwoods had warning to attend. They keep thae things unco private; and they were to bring the corpse a' the way frae the castle 10 miles off, under cloud o' night. She has lain in state this 10 days at Glenallan House, in a grand chamber, a' hung with black, and lighted with wax cannle." "God is Aiser!" ejaculated old Elspeth. Her head apparently still occupied by the event of the Countess's death. "She was a hard hearted woman, but she's gane to account for it a', and His mercy is infinite. God grant she may find it sae." And she relapsed into silence, which she did not break again during the rest of the evening. "I wonder what that old deaf beggar Carly and our son Steenie can be doing out in sic a nicht as this," said Maggie Mucklebackit, and her expression of surprise was echoed by her visitor. "Gang awa, ane o' ye hinnies, up to the heugh head, and gie them a cry in case they're within hearing. The carrot cakes will be burnt to a cinder." The little emissary departed, but in a few minutes came running back with the loud exclamation, "Ay, minnie! Ay, grannie! there's a white bogle chasing twa black anes down the heugh." A noise of footsteps followed this singular annunciation, and young Steenie Mucklebackit, closely followed by Edie Ochiltree, bounced into the hut. They were panting and out of breath. The first thing Steenie did was to look for the bar of the door, which his mother reminded him had been broken up for firewood in the hard winter 3 years ago. "For what use," she said, "hae the like o' them for bars?" "There's nobody chasing us," said the beggar, after he had taken his breath. "We're even like the wicked that flee when no one pursueth." "Troth, but we were chased," said Steenie, "by a spirit or something little better." "It was a man in white on horseback," said Edie, "for the soft ground that wadna bear the beast flung him about. I wot that weel, but I dinna think my auld legs could have brought me aff as fast. I ran amaist as fast as if I had been at Prestonpans." This refers to the flight of the government forces at the battle of Prestonpans, 1745. "Hout, ye daft gowks," said Luckie Mucklebackit, "it will hae been some o' the riders at the Countess's burial." "What!" said Edie, "is the auld Countess buried the night at St. Ruth's? Ou, that would be the lights and the noise that scared us awa. I wish I had kenned. I would hae stood them, and no left the man yonder but they'll take care o' him. Ye strike ower hard, Steenie I doubt ye foundered the chield." "Neer a bit," said Steenie, laughing. He has broad shoulders, and I just took measure o' them wi' the stang. Od, if I hadna been something short with him, he would hae knockit your auld hams out, lad." "Weel, and I win clear o' this scrape," said Edie. "It's tempt Providence, nae mair. But I canna think it an unlawful thing to pit a bit trick on sic a landlouping scoundrel that just lives by tricking honester folk." "But what are we to do with this?" said Steenie, producing a pocket book. "Od guide us, man!" said Edie, in great alarm, "what garred ye to touch the gear? A very leaf o' that pocket book would be enough to hang us baith." "I dinna ken," said Steenie. "The book had fa'en out of his pocket, I fancy, for I fand it among my feet when I was grapping about to see him on his logs again, and I just pat it in my pouch to keep it safe, and then came the tramp o' horse, and you cried, Rin, rin, and I had nae mair thought o' the book. We maun get it back to the loons some gait or other. Ye had better take it yourself, I think, with peep o' light, up to Ringan Aikwood's. I wonna for £100 it was fund in our hands." Steenie undertook to do as he was directed. "A bonny night ye hae made o't, Mr. Steenie," said Jenny Rintherout, who, impatient of remaining so long unnoticed, now presented herself to the young fisherman. "A bonny night ye hae made o't, tramping about with gaberlunzies, and getting yourself hunted with worry cows, when ye suld be sleeping in your bed, like your father, honest man." This attack called forth a suitable response of rustic raillery from the young fisherman. An attack was now commenced upon the car cakes and smoked fish, and sustained with great perseverance by assistance of a bicker or two of twopenny ale and a bottle of gin. The mendicant then retired to the straw of an outhouse adjoining. The children had one by one crept into their nests. The old grandmother was deposited in her flock bed. Steenie, notwithstanding his preceding fatigue, had the gallantry to accompany Miss Rintherout to her own mansion, and at what hour he returned the story saith not. And the matron of the family, having laid the gathering coal upon the fire, and put things in some sort of order, retired to rest the last of the family. Reader's Note to Chapter Fifth. Note G. Gynecocracy. In the fishing villages on the Firths of Forth and Tay, as well as elsewhere in Scotland, the government is gynecocracy, as described in the text. In the course of the late war, and during the alarm of invasion, a fleet of transports entered the Firth of Forth under the convoy of some ships of war, which would reply to no signals. A general alarm was excited, in consequence of which all the fishers, who were enrolled as sea fencibles, got on board the gunboats which they were to man as occasion should require, and sailed to oppose the supposed enemy. The foreigners proved to be Russians, with whom we were then at peace. The county gentlemen of Midlothian, pleased with the zeal displayed by the sea fencibles at a critical moment, passed a boat for presenting the community of fishers with a silver punch bowl, to be used on occasions of festivity. But the fisherwomen, on hearing what was intended, put in their claim to have some separate share in the intended honorary reward. The men, they said, were their husbands. It was they who would have been sufferers if their husbands had been killed, and it was by their permission and injunctions that they embarked on board the gunboats for the public service. They therefore claimed to share the reward in some manner which should distinguish the female patriotism which they had shown on the occasion. The gentlemen of the country willingly admitted the claim, and without diminishing the value of their compliment to the men, they made the females a present of a valuable brooch, to fasten the plaid of the queen of the fisherwomen for the time. It may be further remarked that these Nereids are punctilious among themselves, and observe different ranks according to the commodities they deal in. One experienced dame was heard to characterize a younger damsel as a puir silly thing, who had no ambition, and would never, she prophesied, rise above the muscle line of business. End note G. End chapter 5.